Hi, I'm Mary Ellen Collins, and I want to talk to you, particularly if you are just discovering that your mother may have narcissistic characteristics. It is such a profound discovery. At the ministry, we talk to women every day, all week long, and this is the new understanding. Wow, my mother fits this pattern. So, this forum for you is for you if you've had any question at all, ever, if your mother has narcissistic behaviors. I ask you some questions first. Have you ever felt confused by your relationship with your mother, but you could not quite explain why? Maybe something always felt off. Maybe the words hurt, the silence hurt, the guilt hurt. But you kept telling yourself, maybe it's me. So for many daughters, discovering that their mother may be narcissistic is not a sudden movement. It's a slow awakening, and it happens in stages. So the first thing I want to do is define the difference between overt and covert. So overt narcissistic mothers, it's easy to recognize because their behavior is really more obvious. It's out in the open. I often give analogy that it's out on the table. Can be controlling, demanding, critical, attention seeking, or openly competitive with their daughters. I have had stories where mothers have competed with their daughters for friends, for boyfriends. But the emotional harm is often loud and it's very visible. But on the other hand, covert narcissists are, this is very hard to identify. So I gave the example that overt's on top of the table, covert's underneath the table. So in covert narcissists can appear kind, fragile, selfless, or misunderstood to others. But behind closed doors, she uses guilt, passive aggressive behaviors, emotional withdrawal, or criticism to control the relationship. That was my aunt who took over our family after my mother died. She was really, everyone thought she was wonderful, but behind closed doors, she was mean. So instead of openly dominating, she may quietly manipulate. Instead of shouting, she may wound through silence, victimhood, or emotional withdrawing. That's why so many times it's confusing for so many years that you do not know what's happening because of this difference between overt and covert. But when you do start discovering, there's different stages. So the first stage is confusion. You sense something is wrong, but you can't name it. You hear things like "you're too sensitive" or that never happened. And slowly you begin to doubt your own feelings. The second stage is rationalizing. You make excuses for her behavior. You tell yourself she had a hard life. You tell yourself she means well. I've heard people say she did as good as she could with what she had. You hope that if you try harder, achieve more, or upset her less, that'll finally change. Then comes discovery. You read something. You hear another daughter tell her story. You begin to learn about toxic, narcissistic, covert or overt behaviors, and suddenly something clicks. Suddenly something clicks. You realize this is not random. This is a pattern. Then the next stage comes to awakening. After you've discovered and you've answered those questions, it becomes awakening. You begin to see the manipulation much more clearly. You notice how your needs were dismissed and how your confidence may have been chipped away, and how the relationship often revolved around her emotions, her image, and her control. Wow. Then comes grief. Grief, not just over what happened, but grief over what never was. So you begin to grieve the mother you needed. You actually, you grieve the mother who would have protected you, affirmed you, and loved you without you having to earn it. Then the next stage comes boundaries. This is where healing begins to take shape. You start learning that boundaries are not punishments, they are protection. It's putting a fence around what's important to you. You begin to understand that you're not responsible for managing her reactions, her moods, or her approval. Then this one's so hard, this stage is reclaiming your identity. If you've had a narcissistic mother, you don't know who you are. So you begin asking yourself, who am I apart from this relationship? Who am I apart from survival? What does healing look like for me? So if this story is familiar, hear this. You're not imagining it. You're not too sensitive. You're not selfish for wanting peace, and you're not alone. Understanding your mother's behavior, whether it was overt or covert, can bring language you have carried for years. And awareness does not erase the grief, but it does not open the door to healing. But it does open the door to healing. Awareness is not the end of the journey. For many motherless daughters, this is the beginning of healing. But awareness brings something else much more powerful, and that is freedom. Freedom. So at the Motherless Daughters Ministry, we understand that mother loss is not always caused by death. Sometimes it comes through emotional absence, manipulation, narcissism, or the painful reality of never feeling truly mothered. Healing begins when truth is named. And freedom begins when a daughter no longer has to question her own reality. So if this message is speaking to you, share it with another motherless daughter who needs to hear these words today. And if you're looking for support, connect with us at the Motherless Daughters Ministry. You don't have to walk this path alone. We're with you.